right, welcome back to the Onebar and Lupagus show. I'm Lupagus here. Like usual, with me is Onebar. Looks very smiley today. His face is as white as his hoodie.
It is.
Today we're going to talk about a topic we've touched on before. It's always being yammered about in Viking circles, trading Kirk Cousins. Would the Vikings do it? Should they do it? And just recently, more fuel has been added to that fire with Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio, who I'm not the biggest fan of, saying that they might not be looking for a lot in return for Cousins, and San Francisco 49ers are a great destination for him. So let's just circle back to the whole topic. Kirk Cousins, before we get into the ifs they would trade him, should they trade him, let's just talk about the compensation part first. What do you think at this point of his career, 33-something years old, huge ass, pushing his cereal on everybody, Vikings could get for Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it'll definitely matter on which team he goes to, which I know we're going to talk about some teams after this, but he's got a good sized contract. Whatever team, if they were to take him on, he would it's $21 million against their cap. Vikings then would have $9 million of dead cap space, which is not a bad trade-off. But as far as compensation, that's tough. I mean, I think like a third round pick. I mean, it doesn't sound like much. Kirk Cousins is one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He's a top 12 quarterback, whether you want to admit it or not. But compensation wise, they're going to have to be real about it. They're not going to get 3 first-round picks for the guy.
No, they're not getting anything that's floated around for Deshaun Watson right now, who's still young, still in his prime, maybe even still reaching his prime. To me, I think it depends on the team, and that's strictly what it depends on. Because the team that comes to mind for me is the Colts, sitting there with the 26th-ish pick. They're really a quarterback away. Phillip Rivers just retired. Jacoby Brissett doesn't appear to be the answer. I don't think they want to start over with Jacob Eason. When you got a defense ready to go, you got a stud running back, got some weapons you can throw to in Michael Pittman and T.Y. Hilton. Why wouldn't they part with that first-round pick? You know, it's on the lower end of the first round. I think that's the high end of what the Vikings could get. And that's maybe the only thing, if I'm the Vikings, I'd actually consider at this point. But a team that's really ready to compete, the window it's now, winter now, and I think the Colts would be a team that would make some sense and could offer the best compensation.
Well, before we talk about teams, let's talk about just why would the Vikings trade him? I mean, he's tied to Zimmer. He's still, even though his contract is big, he's still only about to 9th or 10th highest paid quarterback in the league. If Zimmer was to and Spielman were to trade Kirk Cousins at this point in their careers, that would just be weird. That does not make sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either. To me, they're tied together. I don't think, unless you had like something in play for Deshaun Watson, or you knew you had someone coming in that could replace Kirk Cousins and play even better, you're not going to move him. I mean, he wasn't the problem last year. Kirk Cousins was not the problem. It was the defense for the most part. No pass rush, inexperienced secondary. That's what made the Vikings lose so many games. Kirk Cousins is still playing well. And with Mike Zimmer, Rick Spielman basically in make it or break it years, I can't see them bailing on their quarterback that they invested so heavily in at this point.
Well, and I think in the first 6 games, Kirk Cousins was the problem. I mean, he had a horrific start. Then our bad record had a lot to do with Kirk Cousins and the way he played. So that is not going to help. But I just can't see it. The one way I could see this regime trading Kirk Cousins is knowing that they're going to get up that free cap space, knowing that they can bring in some defense, and knowing that they can bring in one of these quarterbacks. There's going to be a lot of quarterbacks they're going to be available this offseason that are just middle of the road, Case Keenum-esque type guys that they think they can just plug in and go all in on defense and try to make it happen. Because even when we had a good defense, I mean, Kirk Cousins has only gotten to the playoffs 1 out of however many years he's been here, 3 years. So I could see that road if they had something in mind just to go all in on defense.
Yeah, and I still even think that's a stretch. I don't know if it was earlier in his career at the Vikings, and they realized, hey, we made a mistake. I could see it happening, but again, with where they are now, I think it's a huge stretch that he gets moved, and I would be absolutely shocked if it happens. So, which probably means it will, because that's the way things go.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Let's talk about some teams. You mentioned the 49ers. Obviously, that one makes sense. Shanahan just seems to love Kirk Cousins more than anything. in life itself. So that, I mean, if there was any team, it would be the Niners to me. Jimmy Garoppolo, not fantastic. The Niners just had a down year. A lot of that had to do with their quarterback play. Bringing Kirk Cousins in, Kyle Shanahan thinks he can make him the second coming of Taylor Heineke.
Oh my God.
So the Niners, that one is why that one makes sense. What else we got? You said the Colts. Philip Rivers just retired.
Yeah, they're ready to roll. They got a team that's ready to compete right now. I think they make a ton of sense. And again, pick 26. It's not like it's their future. It's just one first-round pick.
Well, I think you're smoking something if you think we're gonna get a first-round pick. But I'd love it. Don't get me wrong. I'd love it. Another team is the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos. Drew Lock. They don't seem overly excited about him. Bring in a Kirk Cousins guy. Can go full-blown pipe dream and put the Texans in there.
Well, I mean, if you're going to make a deal, you might as well throw Kirk Cousins in. You're exchanging one contract for another big one. But I read somewhere too that even if the Vikings did trade him, they're still only going to be like $1 million or something under the cap. It's not like it's going to free him up a ton. So it really doesn't help him on that end, at least this season. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think this is such a stretch. I just don't see it happening one bit.
No, I think Florio, I think everybody at this time of the season, regardless who the Vikings quarterback is, not making the playoffs, they would have been talking about trade. Kirk Cousins is easy pickings as far as to throw an article out there. But stranger things have happened. There are going to be teams that think they're a quarterback away, and Kirk Cousins is a pretty damn good quarterback. So it's not overly crazy. I just if I had to bet on it, I'm saying not a chance.
No, and it's the same thing. You can even move this into the draft and be like, this is the same reason why the Vikings probably aren't going to take a quarterback at pick 14, because they have to win now, and starting over at quarterback is not going to help you win games next year. So I think Kirk Cousins is going to be the quarterback for the Vikings 2021. If Mike Zimmer gets let go after that season, then I think we have something to really talk about. But at this point, I think Gold Florio just looking for some clicks.
Yeah, if we had moved on from Zimmer, this would be much more of a talker. It would be a hot talker. And he didn't. He's here. And even if for some reason we traded Kirk Cousins before the draft, I still don't think they go young quarterback. I think that just solidifies the fact that they would bring in a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick or somebody like that. Zimmer is not starting over with a rookie quarterback. I guarantee it.
No, he's not. He won't do it. He won't do it. So that is it. We're going to put a little kibosh on the Kirk Cousins trade rumors. Never going to talk about it again, unless, of course, it happens. Then we'll talk about it at length.
Can't wait.
All right. Until then, remember this. It takes about 7 minutes for the average person to fall asleep.